always.
Right.
So there's some people that claim that some part of the Levites, the tribe of Levi, these people that had these Y chromosome markers,
Hmm.
they claim to be the true descendants of Aaron.
Right. What's your thoughts on that? You don't need any textbooks or anything. Just
I don't know. I don't know too much about it.
well, I mean, generally, what from what you've heard there.
Okay, so what is the implication of that claim if it's true?
Well, I mean, it is there a way that they could actually prove that they have a descendant? Because my understanding was that the tribe of Levi vanished. They don't have any clue where the tribe of Levi is.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay.
So I mean, where do you come up with the assumption that you're from the tribe of Levi when nobody has any records of where Levi?
What is the okay? What is the why is it important to be a descendant of the tribe of Levi?
They were the ones who carried the Ark of the Covenant.
Hmm.
They were the only ones allowed to be able
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. Right, right. Okay, okay. So the ark was lost at some point. Is that the time when the Levites got lost too?
Mhm. So that was basically where that came from. Um, Now, also we ended up getting into some pretty interesting conversations when it comes to this. Like, there was a part where it was talking about the Virgin Mary, and this is probably something you would really like. This has to do with, according to Christian theology, it holds that Jesus was born of the Virgin Mary and didn't have a biological human father, right?
Right.
So the big question is that a lot of people ask is, why is it that the Jews could not accept Jesus as the Messiah? Okay. Now, what I found out about it is because of the fact that Christianity holds to the idea that the Virgin Mary had a biological, or a son without a biological father. That would go against the Jewish beliefs. You know what I'm
But
saying?
uh, the Jewish book predict that the Messiah was be born of the Virgin.
Right. But Joseph's lineage is the one that goes back to Jesse.
Yeah. I guess they didn't know that Joseph was the foster father.
Well, that's where it gets kind of tricky. Like, if you're saying
Yeah.
that he wasn't the one that actually physically impregnated Mary and gave and Jesus was given birth because of his sexual act. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so remember the story of the Annunciation where Mary became pregnant, and then Joseph took her into his home as his wife in order so that Mary avoid being stoned to death because she would be pregnant before marriage,
Mhm.
right? Right?
Right.
Okay. So from that, it looks like it seems like everybody thought that Jesus was Joseph's real son, actual son. So that could be one of the reasons why I had a hard time believing that Jesus was a Messiah. Remember, he was doing miracles, and all the people from his town said, "Isn't this the son of Mary and Joseph?" And like didn't his mother and brothers or ate with us or things like that, meaning they're too familiar with him for him to be the Messiah, right? They know this guy, and then when the Messiah comes, nobody would know where he comes from. That's what the Testament says. Uh, so meaning they probably did not know that Jesus was uh, Mary's son, conceived out of miraculous origin.
Well, I mean, the whole
Uh,
question would be is like when it comes to okay, like if tribal identity in Judaism is traditionally followed by the father, and if
right.
Joseph was not the biological father, then how does Davidic descent function? You know what I mean?
But Mary was also a descendant of the Davidic lineage.
That would be a good thing to bring up too, because like I never really checked to see with Mary.
Yeah, if you trace both Joseph and Mary's lineage, they all descend from David.
Now the thing
David's
about the
family.
Messiah, though, the Messiah, according to the Jewish thought, the Messiah should be biologically should be a biologically male descent of David through the paternal line. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So
But he
that,
is a biologically male descendant of David through Mary.
well, Joseph would be saying biological male descent. It would be from Joseph, though, wouldn't it? Rather,
No, well, Joseph is a descendant of David, but Mary, like Jesus, took on his flesh from Mary's body,
right?
and Mary was a descendant of David too.
You would have to look at how they how they looked at women traditionally during that time period too, though. You know what I mean? To be honest, I
You
mean,
know, so when a child is born from out of the father and the son, they don't take completely all of their DNAs from the father, right?
right?
They have to inherit some from the mother too, right?
well, well,
And so
we
when the child is conceived, in the case like Mary conceiving Jesus out of through divine intervention, there was no earthly father, so all of his DNA comes from Mary.
well that would make sense in today's world, though, is what I'm saying. But when it comes to back then, like they didn't have information concerning DNA or things of that
Right.
nature. You know what I mean? So I later on, man, I'm gonna check that out too to find out how they felt about lineage, if it because you got to admit they didn't have very high regards for women back then. Not any of the societies back in those days actually had high regards for women when it comes to stuff like this. It was always the man, the father, and the son. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
true, but in Judaism there was some pretty powerful women.
right, and that actually comes up to another thing that we were talking about too. And this one actually is something that I was impressed with because um, the guy that we were having the talk with, we were talking about David. Actually, it got into Jesus and David through that, but then we were talking about the lineage of David, and I pointed out Ruth. Okay, and
Yes,
a lot of
Ruth. Yeah,
a lot of people don't realize Ruth was not Jewish.
right. She was not. Yeah,
She was Moabite.
yeah.
And, and this is like the great, what was the great or the great grandmother or the grandmother of David.
Maybe great grandmother.
Yeah. So I found that interesting that the whole lineage of the Messiah was actually it comes from Ruth, who was actually a Moabite that was an outsider who became a
But
part
but
of.
but, but Ruth married into the family and gave birth to who?
Oh God,
Right? I mean, she didn't start the lineage all by herself.
no. Well, I mean, I know that she ended up having, I think it was two marriages, I believe.
No, but I'm talking about the one that she married into the Jewish family.
Yeah, that was the one that she was married to first, and then when he died, she said that she would follow the Jewish faith and go wherever they went, and
Right.
eventually she married a brother of this guy. I forgot who he was.
I forgot either. I forgot as well. I need to look it up.
You know, which I thought that was actually pretty cool because I've been doing some research into a little outpost. It was called Cantelet Idrid, and it was found in the Sinai, where they had found a smaller temple that had like a syncretized had a syncretized religion where it was blended between Judaism um, and uh, the Phoenicians in the area, as well as Egyptians. They were all basically blended together. They had pottery, they had paintings, murals on the walls. And I found that pretty interesting because if you'd remember back then, man, it was forbidden for the Jewish to have any temples other than the Jewish or the temple in Jerusalem. That was the
Right.
you know. So I thought that was kind of cool. And that kind of got into the whole conversation of how much of an influence Egypt, or how much of a relationship there was between Egypt and the Levant, especially with Jerusalem, you know. Um, and then we started getting into the conversation about Moses and the story of Moses being put in a basket and floated down the Nile,
Yeah.
you know. So that's where I brought it up about Sargon. You know, I still have a hard time believing that that's an actual story because if you take Sargon's story and you put it side by side with Moses' story, they're pretty much identical. Now, the, the guy Robert or Scotty Roberts that was on last night, he tried to compare that story to Osiris, but
Hmm.
I couldn't compare it to Osiris because of one thing: Moses didn't have his wiener bitten off by a fish. You know what I'm saying? So, and plus, this was when he was a baby, not when he was being murdered.
Okay.
So that was kind of where that whole conversation went. So, you got any feedback
Okay.
on that? On
Interesting.
on the story of Moses. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. No opinion. I'm just, but this story of Moses is well known in the Bible. What's there to debate?